he was in it. He was in it. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Avengers Endgame was amazing. Hey guys, welcome to Neek, which is Nerd Plus Geek. This is my first video, of course, and this review is really long, I know, and most of my reviews will be a lot shorter than this, probably at like 20 minutes at most, but probably more like 10-15 minutes. But I just had a lot to talk about this movie, of course, with it being the 3-hour runtime and having so much in it. And I hope you enjoy. Okay, so to start off this review, I'm kind of split into sections about. So first off, I'm gonna talk about the trailers hiding everything. Like, not literally everything, but normally the trailers will reveal quite a bit of the movie, so you kind of get the feel of at least like the main plot line, what they're trying to do. This one did not. Almost all the footage is from the the first 15 minutes, basically before the time jump. We get a little bit after the time jump, before they actually time travel, and then a couple scenes from the in battle, but you don't really know what's going on. But you really know nothing. Like, they hid the time travel thing, which is the main thing. You don't see any people coming back. They hid so much, the big reveals they let be in the movie, not in the trailer. Yeah, like, if you look at the first trailer, the first half was all just about Iron Man being in space, thinking he's gonna die. But in the movie, he gets saved in like the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So, about that, but they're hiding all this from you. So, I just thought that was great for this big movie to hide everything. Lots of stuff. I don't want that from every movie, but I feel like this, it worked. So now I'm going to be talking about the time travel in the movie. That, of course, is like the main way they were able to bring everyone back by getting the stones from different times. And they use them to make their own Infinity Gauntlet and bring everyone back. And I like it because it can bring back lots of connections and callbacks to the past MCU movies. Because that was the goal. One goal was trying to connect all 22 movies together, and that way actually helps it a lot. So you got the Avengers 22. So you go to the Avengers, you split up, you go to Thor: The Dark World, and then Guardians of the Galaxy. So you get those movies that come back, but then they also tie it back to Winter Soldier in some interesting ways, with Captain America in the elevator, but instead uses Hail Hydra. I love that. You also get to see like fun, cool things, like of how the Agent one was actually helping out in the Battle of New York. That was just interesting. Of course, I also like the way they chose to use time travel. Like, it just sets a new part of reality instead of doing this thing. But just in any time travel movie, it's best not to think too much about it. I feel like just kind of accept the rules, because every time travel movie probably has some plot holes. But I think if it's a good movie, just ignore them and just enjoy the movie. That's what I feel about time travel movies. It also can set up. It also brought back lots of characters, which is the next thing I'm going with is cameos and characters they're able to bring back. They brought back almost everyone for the movie. If you're talking about the funeral scene or through time travel, they basically have almost everyone in their cast in this movie. It's kind of crazy. And they're able to bring like characters even who died in Infinity War. Like, they didn't want to bring like them back, like just like, oh, we didn't die, because that's what happened to the Dustin. Like Loki, you get to see him in the 2012 in the Avengers in 2012, but you also see how he escapes in the Space Stone, which I think is about to be, for his show, will be about that alternate timeline of Loki. And then you also get to bring back Gamora for the movie, except it's Gamora from the past. So now I'm going to talk about the characters. Avengers Infinity War was very much Thanos' movie, and this movie is very much the Avengers movie, especially Captain America and Iron Man. And I'm going to start off by talking about Iron Man. And they really closed out their arc. So Iron Man, the guy who started it all, he was in the first movie. He's been in 9 movies, 10 if you count his cameo on Incredible Hulk. And they find a way to close out his arc and have an ending to him, which is so satisfying. You get to see him after he gets saved and stuff. You figure out he still has Pepper, Rhodey. He has like lots of people he loved. All of them really, except for Peter Parker, which that comes in. But you see that after the 5-year time jump, you get to see that he has a daughter. He started a family and stuff. And though, of course, he'd want the people back, he realizes that he doesn't want to sacrifice it because he has such a great. He doesn't want to sacrifice it because he has such a good life going. These 5 years have been the best 5 years for him. Because he was able to just start a family. So you kind of see this thing like him talking to Pepper where he figures out he can actually use time travel and whether he should do it or not. I thought that interaction was great. And then she says, well, if you didn't do it, if you don't, could you rest? And then later he decides to help, of course. And then later you get to see after in his dying scene, you get to see Pepper say to him, you can rest now. And then he dies. Which was really sad. And then also I love, actually right before he dies, that was the coolest way to do it. He takes the stones and he goes, I'm inedible. Thanos does, and he looks, and I'm like, what? And then I just see Iron Man with the gloves. I'm like, yes, yes. And he goes, I am Iron Man. It's just a great way to bring it back all the way, because it's in the end of Iron Man where he says that, and then just a great way to bring it back. And then you end this scene where you see all the people. You see Rhodey, then Peter, then Pepper all come to him before he dies. And then you get to see the funeral where everyone shows up. That was cool. And you get to see that proof that Tony Stark has a heart floating in the water. And also it's really sad how you see his daughter, like you see them watching the message and he brings back the I love you 3000, and that just hit me hard when he says that. And then when his daughter's talking with Happy, and then she says, what do you want? And he's like, do you want anything? And she says cheeseburgers. And like, they just brought it back so many ways. That part was like so sad and stuff. And I just loved him in this movie. Like, another thing I forgot to, is the way with time travel, he finally gets to say goodbye to his dad and talk with him. And it's funny how he talks to his dad while he's a parent, while his dad's about to have him. And I thought that was great. And just a great thing, because that's kind of connects it back to Civil War, where he's using barf, biometric artificial framing something. I don't remember. Retro framing. I don't remember, like, the thing that brings you back. And you see him, like, he says, I wish that would have been, but I never got to say goodbye to his parents. Well, he there gets to say goodbye to his dad. And then you see him hug him, and he goes, and he goes, thank you for everything you did for the country. And then he leaves, and I bet that just thinks he's some weirdo, but later he'll never probably know. But that's his son. And that's just great that you got to see it. And also, connecting there, you get to see Jarvis, Edwin Jarvis, who is the person, Howard's butler, who Tony named Jarvis, like, his thing in his suit after, of course, and he was in Agent Carter, which is like a show that's about Peggy Carter, of course, and he's in that show, and so it's great because besides Howard Stark and Peggy, none of them have ever, the characters from that show have ever been in the movies, but you get to see Jarvis there, which I was not expecting it at all. Um, I mean, I watched Peggy Carter like just recently, just trying to get ready to get everything MCU, but I'm like, this probably won't connect that much, but I'm glad I watched it, or else I wouldn't have noticed that. Now moving on to the living legend, Captain America, who is, he's always been like, since I was little, he's been my favorite Avenger. I remember, so, like, I got really right into Avengers, right as the first Avengers movie is, like, coming out. I got into the hype with that. Wasn't allowed to watch it yet, but I still got, like, the Lego sets and stuff. Captain America's my favorite. What I was allowed to watch is Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and I loved that show. I'm still really sad they canceled it, and Captain America was always my favorite in it. And Captain America was my favorite. Like, even on my 8th birthday, I finally got to see Captain America: The First Avenger, and that was my first ever Marvel movie I saw. So I've just always been a fan of Captain America, and in this movie, he was great. He's like on equal footings with Tony Stark. If you look at the screen time rounded to the nearest 15 seconds, they actually have the same amount for this movie. So they're really both in it a lot. And let's talk about let's actually talk about him now in the movie. You see him, he's kind of broken and stuff. Like, he's just always having a way to do it. He always knows a way. He can do it all day. He's not gonna give up. He's not gonna lose. But then they do lose. And he's just kind of, so you definitely see him like mourning it. But then, as you see, you get to see him talking with Tony. You get to see their reunion, and how you can still see both of their sides. And then he's also kind of goes back to being the leader of the Avengers here. He comes up with the missions and stuff. And then as you go into the time travel part, you can see he goes to New York first, and you get to see some great moments of him. First, you see he goes into the elevator with all these SHIELD people who are actually Hydra, which only he knows that, because at that point no one else knows. And it has like some of the exact same shots, like Crossbones is there, and it has some of the exact same shots of the Winter Soldier where he's in the elevator. And I was about to say, he's about to say it before we get started, does anyone want to get out? But then he goes, the secretary sent me to get the scepter. And they're like, what? And he goes, Hail Hydra. And he just walks out with the scepter. I'm like, yes! That's just such a great moment. For one thing, it shows just how he learned, and it's just like such a great way that I didn't expect it, but I love it. How he uses what he knows from the future. And then also, that's like a callback to something in the comics that happens where, in like one comic, it's like, it actually caused lots of controversy where Captain America reveals, that he's part of Hydra. But then it's like a whole big thing. I don't know about the comic that much. I know about the comic, I never read it, but I know that he reveals that he's actually been in Hydra this whole time. But then I think it's like actually not actually Captain America or something. But anyway, so I know that's calling back to that. And then what else do we get? Captain America. Oh yes, and then you get you get to see him talk to you see him talking. You get to see him interact with himself. And then you see him fighting himself, which is just a cool moment because Cap thinks it's Loki. And then I love how his thing of Peggy Carter comes out and Cap's like, how'd you get that? And then he goes, Bucky's alive. And he goes, what? And then he mind controls him with the scepter. And you're like, and you just see how Cap's using his advantage of knowing of knowing about the future to infect the past, and I love it. And then also you get the more stuff about the America's butt thing, which was a great joke in it. And then as we move on, we get to see, I love, one thing is they hint at stuff like in the movie where you don't really think about it. You think it's just a callback, but it ends up being a big hint. This one was actually a little bigger because you can see the picture of Howard Stark that Iron Man has like early in the movie at his house, but then he later sees Howard Stark. And then here you see when he goes with Tony to the SHIELD base, you get to see him seeing Peggy Carter, which is kind of like a sad moment, like where he's like, I mean, it's like a, not sad, but like he sees Peggy Carter again, and it kind of like makes him feel like, remember this. And then you also get to see, this is another callback to like Agent Carter, because you see she always carries on her desk, has that picture of Steve, like while he was skinny, and you get to see that there. And then that later pays off at the end of the movie. I'll get to that in a second. And then what else is there? Oh yes, and then in the end battle while they're all fighting, he's like the last one standing, where it's just the three of them fighting, the three main like heroes, and then Cat's the last one there, and you see him finally lift Mjolnir. When that happened, my theater went nuts. I mean, me included, but I was like, yes, yeah, yeah. And then you get to see him wield Mjolnir, which was just a great moment. And then after, you get to see like Thanos still is kind of overpowering him, and he breaks his shield and stuff, like halfway broken. And then you see Captain America. He's on the ground. He gets up. He tightens his shield, and he looks up. I thought he was gonna say, "I can do this all day." Oh wait, I just forgot. Also, old Cap says, "I can do this all day," and he goes, "Yeah, I know. That's a great moment." But anyway, it doesn't really matter that much. But he tightens it, and you see him. Then you see Thanos' army all coming in, and you see Thanos and his whole army here get this wide shot, and just Cap by himself with his broken shield, not going to give up. Which is actually, it reminded me of Infinity Gauntlet, which I actually did read. Captain America, I forgot, but I'm pretty sure Thanos breaks his shield. Yeah, Thanos does break his shield. And Cap still stands up against Thanos when like all the Avengers basically have died, and it's just him standing there, or knocked down or die, and he's basically saying, I'm not gonna give up. But then you hear in his intercom, Falcon's like, Cap, are you here? Are you here? And I'm like, because I forgot, you kind of forgot that they brought back everyone, because of the way they played out was great. And then you hear when he comes in, on your left, and then you see all the people come in, and you get ready for the final battle. I'm just gonna talk, that final battle was just amazing. I've already talked about the stuff with Iron Man in it, and then I'm talking about this. And you finally get the Avengers Assemble line, which Captain America, so I watched Earth Mightiest Heroes, and that was always his quote and stuff, and always Captain America would be like, Avengers Assemble. And that's just the thing. And then they've never said it in any of the MCU, in none of the Avenger movies. I mean, they've kind of teased at it, because Avengers, the first one, in other countries I know, there's some other countries, there's some other movie called The Avengers, so they called it Avengers Assemble, but they still never said it. And then Age of Ultron was about to say it right at the end, Cat was, and they cut him off. And then Infinity War, they just didn't. I'm like, they better have it in here. That's what I was thinking before the movie. That's one of my thoughts. They better have this in the movie. And it was just, such a great moment with Cap. And then after the fight, you get to see when he's returning all the stones and stuff. You see, I kind of was thinking about this, because I see like him talking to Bucky, saying like he's gone for a while. I'm like, that seems interesting. And he also calls back the line from Captain America: The First Avenger about like the stupid. How can I do anything stupid? You bring all the stupid with you. And as it starts counting down, like, I think I know where they're going with this. And when it passes time and doesn't come back, like, he went to live with Peggy. And then you see him as an old man sitting on the bench, and you're like, he's right there. And then he comes over. Bucky, you can tell, already knows this because he like tells Falcon to go over there. And then you see Falcon talking to him and stuff, and then he tells him to be Captain America. So you still get to pass on Captain America without Steve Rogers, and he's not dead yet. So he could be Old Man Cap, which is where he never went into the ice, but he still kept being the leader of the. He was always like fighting, even after he couldn't fight. He was too old. He'd still be like a leader person. So they could do that, where he's just like a leader person. So that'd be cool. And then when I was thinking about it, if this was not the time travel where it splits into realities, there's one reason I wouldn't like that. Like this, because of one thing. Well, Peggy does get, she does get married to an Agent Carter. She gets married to a different person. And I'm like, that kind of retcons it. But then I was thinking, it doesn't. And I was actually, people would see this as a plot hole of how Cap would say, because they said that you can't change stuff from the past and just start a new reality. But it says that the director said something that you don't know fully what happened. Cap could have found a way to switch realities. So, yeah, he'd be able to go back in time, live with Peggy, but then go back into the reality with where he stayed. It's kind of confusing, but I think it makes sense. But yeah, and then they end the last scene of the movie. I mean, there's not even any credit scenes, with just them dancing. And you finally get, after all like the teasing and stuff, you get to see him dancing with Peggy. So now I'm going to talk about Thor, and there was some stuff I liked that they did with Thor, and at the same time, I didn't like some stuff they did with Thor. So at the beginning, you see Thor, he's just kind of like super like mad that he lost. He's not used to this. And then you see he goes to Thanos. And when they go to fight Thanos at the beginning, which I thought just was a crazy moment, how they killed Thanos off at the beginning. I was like, wait, where are they going with this? But Thor kills him. Kills Thanos. He goes, what'd you do? He's like, I went for the head, because he already destroyed all the stones. He realizes there's nothing he can do. And then once you go back to Thor after the 5 years later, he's fat, and all he does is eat pizza, drink beer, and play Fortnite with Korg and Meek. So basically, and you see he's really fat. That's kind of how they do. Well, not like really fat, but really fat. That does make sense, but yeah, and then Rocket calls him melted. You look like melted ice cream and stuff. And then you see, but I thought here, I'm like, it makes sense why he's fat. I don't know, it was kind of like, what? What? I was still kind of confused, but it makes sense. I mean, he's kind of just so depressed and broken. And it would make sense, like when Rocket mentions Thanos, he's like, don't say that name. And they're like, yeah, we don't really say that name here and stuff. Korg says that. And then you get to what was I saying? Oh, also I thought they did a great job of hiding Fat Thor from us, because in the trailers you don't get that at all in any of the posters, so it's a big surprise. But then later in the movie, I was like, is he gonna get buff again or something? And then uh, you see as he goes to Thor the Dark World, he's like super like he meets with his mom, and his mom realizes you're from another you're a different Thor from like the future, because she can tell, because she says that. And then you get this nice talk with her and Thor, and I think it's the best we saw of Thor's mom, Frigga, and all the MCU, basically, because she just didn't really do much. Like, I didn't really feel that sad when she like died or anything, but this made me actually, I feel like if I go back and see the Dark World after seeing this, I feel like I'll actually feel some emotion. And also love, and she kind of gives him hope and stuff, and they talk about, and also he still is worthy of Mjolnir, which is great. And I'm like, as soon as he brought it back, I'm like, is Cap gonna wield it? And then and I like his mom's like, and eat a salad before he leaves. And then Thor's just also pretty funny like this, as he's like drunk and stuff, like he's explaining the story of Thor the Dark World, basically about the Reality Stone, and all the Avengers like, what? And then Ant-Man's like, but then as we go into the final battle, like as he's sitting there in his like weird outfit and stuff, I'm like, is he still gonna be like that in the final battle? But you see the lightning strike, and he gets in his armor and everything, and he gets his Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, but he's still fat. I'm like, really? I wish he would have been buff. So this is kind of, originally that was like my thing, but now I very much, in the first time I saw this, and even the second time, I'm like, I wish he became buff right there with the lightning strikes him. But then as I seen the fight, I'm like, he still is strong, and you still see that he has the might of the hero. He's not in the best shape, but he's still fighting. And I'm like, I feel like that's also could be good, because I guess it shows like you don't have to be like look all buff. You don't have to be like this to be a hero. So I like that in some ways, but then also by the end, I wish you could tell that he's been working out more and like drinking less and stuff. At least by the end, like we're with the Guardians, I wish you could tell that. But so I'm kind of mixed on that. But yeah, I just hope he doesn't stay like that for the future. And also, talking about the future, I love the way at the end where I love the path they're taking him on, where he's gonna be with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that just really excites me, because I thought he'd be, after seeing Thor Ragnarok, like Thor would be perfect for the Guardians of the Galaxy, and so I'm excited that we'll get to see Thor continue Guardians 3. So not all of these original 6 Avengers are leaving the MCU. Now I'm going to talk about Hulk, which is another character they did a great job at hiding lots of stuff about him in this movie. Professor Hulk. I kind of guessed that they might have Professor Hulk in this movie, but they didn't show him in like any of the trailers or anything, so it still was a surprise-ish, especially if you didn't know who Professor Hulk was. Like, my mom would have never guessed it when she saw the movie. But then I'm kind of like how they use Professor Hulk, and because they weren't allowed to make a Hulk movie, they said that because of how Universal owns Hulk and stuff, they said that they'll try to give Hulk an arc, like a 3-movie arc that will kind of be like his own solo film, which is Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, then Endgame. And I feel like they did that. They really showed this whole relationship, and I like how Bruce Banner's like, instead of seeing as the Hulk as something that needs to be cured, I'm gonna use it and become this better Hulk, which also brings back the Incredible Hulk, because I feel like the Incredible Hulk was like never really mentioned in the MCU, but that's kind of what the Incredible Hulk was about, trying to cure the Hulk. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of that movie, but I guess they finally one reason is because it wasn't really connected. They finally connect it. What else is there about Hulk? they give him, he's like pretty funny in this movie. You got some pretty good jokes. You get to see, he's the one who who actually brings everyone back, and I think he gets his big moment because he does that. He gets his big moment, a big moment because he does that. But because he does that, he doesn't really fight in battle that much. So you don't really get to see a rematch with Thanos, which I was kind of hoping for. And then I feel like I'm glad they changed up Hulk like this, because I feel like Hulk could get very boring if you don't do new, like if you don't change it like this, like every now and then you don't try to find new stuff, because Hulk could get boring. So I feel like this is a new, very good spin for Hulk, Bruce Banner. Stop. We have Hawkeye, Clint Barton, Ronan, whatever you want to call him. And he is the most improved from this movie. Like, before, I've always liked Hawkeye, but he wasn't used the best in the movies until this one. And they finally made Hawkeye a great character. Like, just a great character. In Avengers, they're like, he gets mind controlled for half of the movie. You're like, why are you doing that? I mean, he's just basically like a side villain for most of the movie, and then he joins in the final battle. You don't really get much story with him. And then Age of Ultron, you figure out stuff about how he has a family and stuff, and I actually thought that was pretty interesting. And in Civil War, he shows up, fights in the airport battle, and that's basically it. So besides Age of Ultron, you haven't really gotten much character for him. But then this one gives a lot. So they start off the movie by showing his family. You see the ankle monitor on his leg, and I'm like, yep, this is before the snap, and his family's gonna die. I kind of guessed that before, because I'm like, why else would he become Ronin in the movie? But they start off the movie, and I still could be like, oh man. And knowing it kind of like puts more like, oh man, they're gonna fade, oh man. But his reaction was just great. And you also get to see that he's teaching his daughter, which I think is nice. I mean, you could see, like, I feel like lots of the Avengers actually just have daughters that they seem to be training to be, he's training her, but they could be the new Avengers. But then, so after that, you kind of like, wow. So that's just an emotional way to start off the movie. And then as you continue, you see, the next time we see Hawkeye, he's full Ronin. He's basically like a vigilante, like anti-hero. He's killing bad guys. He's fighting bad guys, but he's killing them violently. He's like going out to kill them, even if they didn't do anything to him. So yeah, and then, but you understand why. He's like this broken person, and I feel like it's not out of the blue that he's going around killing everyone here. And it makes sense. And you get this pretty awesome fight with him in Japan, where he's Ronin in the awesome costume and stuff, beating up the Jakuzai or something, I'm pretty sure what they're called. And then you see Nat come, and they did a great job with this friendship of showing it. And like before like the Vormir scene, they did a great job of reminding you they're friends and showing lots of moments with them. And she kind of brings him back, and he really has no hope. And he's like, don't give me hope. That's what he's saying to Black Widow when she comes. But then he decides to come, and he decides to test out the quantum realm suits. So he goes in the suit, and he goes back to his farm, and he sees his kids. He's like, oh, there's a chance. And he runs at them, and he goes, Lila! And then he's gone. And then you see him coming back, and he's finally more filled with hope. He's like, I can see my family again. But then as like all the Avengers had their places, and then as I was thinking, oh yeah, trying to remember all the teams and stuff. And as you see them on the ship, I'm like, wait, they're going to Vormir. How are they gonna get the Soul Stone? And then you're like, oh man, one of them's gonna die. And they reference Budapest again, which is from First Avengers, where they're talking about Budapest. And then you're like, ooh, one of them's gonna die. And then they go meet Red Skull and stuff, and he tells them what's gonna happen. And I was just thinking, what if 2 other Avengers went? That like barely knew each other, then they wouldn't really be able to get it because you have to kill who you love, and not all the Avengers would like love each other. So but it's interesting, whatever. But so it's them, and they're talking about it, and they both think it's like, okay, it's gotta be me. It's like Hawkeye and Black was like, no, it's gotta be me. This is also, I guess I'll just talk about Black Widow here. What I thought was another great character. You just see her so broken and stuff. And I was thinking about it. Okay, I was like going back, who's gonna die? I mean, it would be satisfying to see Black Widow die, but like, it would also be satisfying to see Clint die. But I'm like, wait, Clint has a family. Black Widow is nothing. What are they gonna do? And then you see them start fighting over it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, so my heart is racing in this, and it's both saying how much what they're willing to do to save the other person. They're showing their friends and just how broken they are to willing to sacrifice themselves, and they're just great heroes. And then they're fighting and stuff, and they see Black Widow make a run for it, and like, oh no, she's gonna die. And then Clint shoots an arrow at her, like an explosion, knocks her down, and then you see Clint jump off the cliff. I'm like, Hawkeye's dead. And then Black Widow grapples on. I'm like, oh man. I'm just like, what's gonna happen? And you're like, oh no, Black Widow's gonna die. And then you see Black Widow dies. And wow, that was very big. But I feel like it makes sense that she's gotta be the one who dies, because Hawkeye does have a family. They also made Hawkeye really cool in battle. I like how he used his sword. He was cool in Japan as Ronin, and then he also had some cool fighting in the end battle. At the end of the movie, you get to see him finally reunite with his family. I already talked quite a bit about Black Widow, so I'm moving on to Nebula. So, I feel like Nebula's kind of reminded me of like a knockoff version of Loki, but a little different. I feel like Nebula has always just been in the shadows of the other Guardians, but now, because there's only 2 Guardians left, this was her movie to shine in. Her, like, you get this nice part where she's with Rocket, like they realize they're the only Guardians left, and you see her kind of work with Rocket, and then you get to see her, how she really is becoming a hero. She kind of her redemption arc continues as she really is becoming a hero and trying to save the day. And then you get to see her interact with her younger self, which I thought was interesting. Also, the way that Thanos figures out is about how they like cross, the thing connects where they can see each other's memories. I did not see that coming, but I thought it was like a pretty great way to connect it so Thanos knows what's happening. You get to see her interact with Gamora again because of the past, who doesn't know, and you get to see some nice bouncing off with them. And then you get to see she actually has to kill the other version of herself, which can't be easy. But then I thought she was gonna die in this movie. Like going into it, I thought that she might be one to die, but she didn't, and I'm fine with it. So yeah. So now we got another character who's been more like not important. He's wasn't even in Infinity War, Ant-Man. But in this movie, he's pretty important, and they do quite a lot with him. So of course the rat is the one who lets him out of the quantum realm, which is a big question. How's Ant-Man gonna get out the quantum realm? It was a rat. So it's just a rat, but I mean he's already been there 5 years, so eventually that could happen, I guess. But then you see this part where he's running. He's as you see him coming back, you see the person who doesn't know what's happened, and then you get like a new perspective. I felt it was interesting because you got so many people that are trying to like grieve. They're just like so like depressed about what happened, but you see he doesn't really know what happened. He hasn't been experiencing it for 5 years, and he's looking through all the names and stuff, and he goes, not Cassie, not Cassie, not Cassie. He sees himself and he's like, what? And he runs home, and you get this nice reunion with Cassie, but you're like, and I just can't imagine having your parent gone and then 5 years later they just show up again. You think they're dead, but then you get this nice reunion and stuff. And then Scott also realizes he missed out 5 years of his daughter's life. So it's kind of like a thing, but you do get a nice reunion, I guess. But then you see him Ant-Man go to the Avengers headquarters, explain the time travel idea. And I think it's also a nice idea to have Ant-Man here, who's not been depressed and stuff. So he's the character who's obviously he's hilarious in this movie. And he has some really great jokes. And then you also get to see him. What else is there about Ant-Man? You get to see him reunite with Wasp and stuff, and then you get to see him kind of like him just become an Avenger, and then you also get to see him like save the day as he like saves War Machine, Rocket, and Hulk's like life. And then I just thought, good character. So now I'm almost done with like talking about all the characters. I just got so I'm gonna try to get fast. So Thanos, they kill Thanos off at the very beginning of the movie. I did not expect that at all. I thought I was like, where's this movie gonna go? And I thought it was a great twist. How they actually revealed the younger Thanos. And also like Infinity War was Thanos' movie, so this time it's more focused on the Avengers, but then you still get Thanos, who's a great villain. So now I'm going to talk about Rocket, who you give him you don't give him like, Rocket, he doesn't get a big arc in this movie, but he's like the last remaining Guardian, so you get some of that, and then you see him, lots of interactions with like between Nebula and Thor, I thought were great. War Machine, I thought he had some of his funniest lines, like where he's naming all the, I like where he's talking about all the time traveling movies, and the part where he's in the temple, and he's like, if the place is called the Temple of the Power Stone, it's gonna have booby traps and stuff. And then you also get to see his, just like a small moment that I thought was pretty cool of like, him talking to Nebula, like he's like, I wasn't always this way, and he goes, neither was I, but we work with what we got, and it shows how they're still being heroes even when they're like disabled. Now I'm gonna talk about the one character that I just did not like, Captain Marvel. So I liked after seeing Captain Marvel, I'm like, okay, so I like some stuff like you're doing. I liked her interactions with Nick Fury, but she just felt she was still like super cocky and just didn't have that much personality. It's just kind of annoying, and I don't love her acting. I just didn't love her acting in that movie. I'm like, okay, but if they just do if they just make it her and Avengers Endgame just really good, then they're just gonna have to make her really good, and then I'll just like this character a lot. But then she's not in the movie that much, what I didn't really expect. And when she is, she's just annoying, kind of, because she's just kind of there at the beginning. She's like, oh yeah, she's just way too cocky and arrogant, and just she doesn't have any like. If she was like more charismatic with it, then it would have been better, or like. And it's just so annoying that she's like this, and she's just like so powerful, and she just doesn't seem earned, because she just kind of she's just powerful without learning to like, without humbling or anything. She's just powerful still has this, which is I just didn't like. And then she's just in the beginning, she leaves, and then she comes in at the end with her haircut, which I wasn't a big fan of. She just comes in at the end of the battle like, oh yeah, I'm just awesome and stuff, destroying all these like ships and then almost defeating Thanos. I'm so glad she didn't defeat Thanos, because that would have not been earned, and then Thanos stops her. But I just didn't like her. What else can I say? Now I'm gonna move into some of the smaller characters quickly that I liked, and then I'm gonna give my final score. So Pepper, I thought you finally get to see her with an Iron Man suit fighting around, which I thought was cool. And then she finally gets married to Tony Stark, and you get some really great moments between them. Valkyrie, you get to see her becoming the leader of Asgard, which I thought was a cool way to take it. And then also you get to see her riding on like a Pegasus or something. That was just cool. Spider-Man, he's not in the movie that much, but he's hilarious and he's cool. And then he has some really touching moment while he's talking to Tony right before he dies, and where you get to see his reunion with Ned was awesome. Doctor Strange, you get to see some moments where he's just talking to Tony, like, seeing is this the one, and you get to see him do some cool, like, magic. Falcon, you get to see him become Captain America. Scarlet Witch, you get this awesome fight with Thanos, and you also get this talk between Clint and Scarlet Witch, which I thought was cool to like use them too, because they both lost someone that they're like close to them. And also, like, you've seen through Age of Ultron, like in Civil War, you really see that Scarlet Witch is kind of like, that was kind of like Hawkeye's, like, he was kind of like mentoring over her, some like kind of, yeah, mentoring over her, I guess. So I thought it was nice to see continue that. Star-Lord, you get to see some funny Chris Pratt humor, especially where he's talking with Gamora, where he finds, that was just like a great moment where he sees Gamora again, and then when she kicks him in the balls, and then while he's talking with Thor at the end, and they're like swiping over, like, you do realize I'm in charge, right? And he goes, of course, of course, of course. And then Gamora, they found an interesting way of bringing her back. So now my final score of the movie. And this movie just shouldn't be able to exist. And the way that they're able to make it this well with all this, maybe there's some small, like, there might be some small plot holes, some things that could have been a little better. But honestly, it doesn't really matter when they do this. And I just can't give it any better grade. I just can't give it a better score than a 10 out of 10. So that's my review for Avengers Endgame. Please tell me your thoughts about the movie down in the comments. Please subscribe and like the video, and also share this, because I'm trying to start this channel.